Hi, everybody. I'm going to start right at 2 o'clock because we have a lot to get through. I've already started the recording, and Kate is helping us out by dropping the link into the chat repeatedly. If you visit the library staff intranet, there's a page for textbook inventory. The bit.ly is listed right there, and everything that you need for today is on there. There's a little slide deck I'm going to work from, and then we'll work live as well. If you can get into Destiny and log in as library staff, that'd be great too. All right, everybody, welcome. It's right at 2 o'clock, and I'm going to get started because we have a lot to go through today. Patty Frost from the School Improvement and Accountability Office and possibly Dr. Mooney are going to be joining us. They have other meetings too, so they're going to pop in as soon as they get a chance. And when they do pop in, we'll just turn it over to them. Kate is going to keep dropping the link to the library staff intranet into the chat, and everything that we need for the meeting is on this page. I'm working from this page, and I'm going to be using this slide deck that's right here. You can pop it out if you like, if you want to follow along. If not, just leave it there. One thing that would be very helpful is if you could go ahead in another window or another tab, log into Destiny as your library staff. That way, when we go through a couple things, you'll be able to do them. We're going to run a report, and hopefully we'll get your started inventory set up for you. Agenda is not accessible. Sorry about that. If you refresh, it should be working now. If I turn my camera off, it's only because my computer can't handle so many things going on at one time. So it may come on and off. It's a little difficult to see the chat all the time. So if there's something really pressing, just go ahead and unmute yourself and say your name and then jump right in. Otherwise, put it in the chat and we'll try and keep up. So we want to start with asking if you've ever been a part of a textbook inventory in Destiny, and we're going to have you respond on Jamboard. You can get to the link right there from this slide deck. It is also on the agenda right here. And I'm going to pop over there and see if anyone has started joining. Kate is there. If you could grab one of the little stickies on the left and answer the question, have you ever done inventory in Destiny for textbook? write your site and name on here, and then add your sticky note under the appropriate column and answer those questions that are there. And we're going to come back to these at the end. So as everyone is joining, just go ahead and get that and drop those into the right column. Is anyone having any other difficulties? I'm going to drop the link for the Jamboard into the chat as well. Did that work for you, Victoria?
Hello, Kelly, you're muted.
I don't know who said that, but thank you. If you're going to Destiny Discover automatically, it's because all guests automatically see Destiny Discover. So if you don't log in before you get there, then you'll have to just go up to the menu in the top left corner and go to Destiny Back Office. And that is all of our teachers and all of our students, no matter where they go, they're going to land at Destiny Discover. Okay, so what I was saying while I was muted was textbook inventory is something that should be done every year. And going forward, the Educational Services Department is going to be expected that it is done every year. They do want to work with staff to try and make it so that it can happen on non-student days, or however it's done to have the least amount of impact on library services. And they do recognize that that might mean extra duty days or times outside of the regular contract time in order to get it done. But it is really important to get it done. The main reason is so that we always have an accurate count of the textbooks in Destiny, so that when someone is going to check to make sure that there are going to be enough materials for students, if they pull that report for Destiny, they have somewhat of a good idea that that number is accurate, and those decisions can be based off of those numbers. As it stands right now, no decisions can be based off of the numbers in Destiny. And if we want to ensure that there are enough materials at the right sites at the right time to distribute to teachers and students, the first step is to get an accurate count of the textbooks at the sites. And that is the library staff. The other parts, ESD and the purchasing department are going to work together on those things. So you don't have to spend a lot of your time worrying about how many students there are going to be and that type of thing. We're going to take a look at that for you. And then once we have all of that figured out, your job is to maintain those accurate numbers. So to be very careful on checking in and checking out, to make sure that those consumables do get checked out, and that if you notice there's a discrepancy in those numbers, that you're always fixing those, and that you're reaching out for help when needed. Then when it's time, you'll do of course, the hard, heavy lift of preparing for distribution, taking all of those pallets of books that arrive, getting those books that were returned from students, getting it organized in some way, and back out to the students. Elementary schools, we are definitely going to be here for you. This is the first year that elementary books went home, and it's going to be the first year that you're expecting to get them back. and turned around and ready for the next group of students. So this is how the calculations work. Again, the library staff's role is to find out how many textbooks are available. That's how many are actually living somewhere on your site. That amount plus the checked out textbooks, because we're assuming we're getting them back, 100% would be great, but that's not going to happen. It has never happened. Typically, it's in around the 3% range. Ms. Frost would like us to work with a really conservative number and estimate that 10% won't come back this year. We're hoping that it's much, much lower. But you take the number that you say you have at your school, plus the number of checked out books, and then we're going to subtract 10% of those checked out books. And that's the estimated available textbooks for 21-22. At that point, you're good. Just keep those numbers good. Then the estimated available textbooks less the estimated enrollment for the courses or for those grade levels is the number of over or under. So we know we've got enough, we know we don't have enough. Then those purchasing decisions can be made. Those items can be ordered. Someone can look and see which site they need to go to. Make sure we know which site they go to. Transfers may need to be made, but still those are things that you shouldn't have to worry too much about. You should be prepared to be in communication, but you shouldn't have to worry about those calculations and how many people are taking biology at your school or how many fourth graders you have coming in. You're going to prepare for distribution. We are hoping that all of the administrators and the library staff and ESD are going to work together on the distribution calendar this year. So we want to start by running a title report. This is going to help you know what you're looking for and maybe spark an idea of where those books might be. So if you are logged into Destiny right now, I want you to go ahead and run this report. You're going to go to Reports, Textbook Reports, and a title copy list. Once you get there.
Excuse me, Kelly, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Kelly,
You're breaking up a little bit. Could you repeat that?
are you recording the meeting?
Yes, I am. Is this Patty?
Yes, it's Patty. I'm sorry. I meant to remind you at the beginning and I forgot. And I just thought.
Yes, I started the recording right away.
I'm sorry to interrupt. And yes, I do hope we get more. We don't have a 10% loss in textbooks. I'm just thinking that we might, unfortunately. Thanks. Okay, bye.
Is there anything else you wanted to add, Patty? Before I keep
No, I'm going to be a listener. I just wanted to make sure we were recording. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So once you get there, you can select and sort. I recommend by title because the data in textbooks isn't always consistent, so it's difficult to run it by subject or instructional classification or something like that. There are probably some more specific reports you could build out in Report Builder, but this one is the least complicated. I recommend by title because it's easier to then look at that list. Include teachers editions and include resource kits. Now, we include teachers editions because some textbooks may have been cataloged where the teacher's edition is listed as the supplement on the main title. However, a lot of ours are not. So you just want to get a look at whatever you might have. Show titles only or show titles only with available copies and all of that. I just leave it at only. I do throw grade level in. Sometimes that'll show up and that can help me remember what book it is. If we're talking about a high school, you're going to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of titles. Middle school, only hundreds and hundreds. Elementary school, maybe close to 100, maybe a little bit more. But at secondary schools, many of the novels are in there and they're listed as novel, colon, and then the title, so that in a title report, they all show up. And that's the purpose of having it that way. 118 pages, Kate. There you go. So when you run this report, I'm going to guess you're going to be a little bit surprised about what you might find in there. I ran one for Washington High School, which is probably going to have the least amount out of anybody, just to show you a couple of things about what the report is going to look like. You're going to see the title, and then the parts that you really want to look at are down here under copy info. You want to look at available. And available means that's how many Destiny Thinks you have on your campus ready to check out. Total is going across here, and unbarcoded is going to be in this parenthesis. I see that for Always Running, 0 of them are unbarcoded. There's total of 19 assigned to this site. 1 of them is available and 18 are lost. Okay. Thinking about those lost, it can mean 2 things. It can mean it was checked out to someone and never returned. It could be that it was checked out to a teacher and we did not go in at the end of the school year and renew those items, and the teachers have had them go to lost. That's a totally another topic we're going to touch on the end. This next one, America Through the Lens. I see there's a total of 61, available 25, lost 23. So what I'm looking for is, can I find 25 of these? And I may even find some of these lost ones. Down here, there are some that are unbarcoded. This workbook, it's unbarcoded. There's a total of 15. 15 are unbarcoded. 2 should be available. So I'm going to look for 2 of these workbooks for sure. So as you scroll through that list of yours, you might want to make some highlights, make some notes, ideas about where these items might be. You may even want to make some notes about these things don't belong in textbook anymore. Maybe you've got Apple TVs and things like that in there. Make some notes, and at a later date, maybe those need to be moved out. Maybe you have laptops in there. Maybe you have a bunch of old VHS videos in there. Do they really need to be there? What can we do with those? So I'm going to guess that some of you are going to be really surprised about what you might find in there. But that list can really help you get going with your report. It's all here in this slide deck if you need to come back to it, and there's a PDF version of it as well. So how to start and conduct an inventory. We can go ahead, and if you are in Destiny right now, you can select to start the inventory, follow along and get it all set up. And that happens at the admin page, and almost at the bottom, it says inventory. I'm at Alice Burney. So you tap on inventory, and when that opens up in the top right corner, there's going to be 3 tabs: library materials, textbooks, and resources. We're going to tap on textbooks. Select Start New. Ignore it if there's one going on. Inventory, if you could name it Spring 2021, that would be helpful, because be helpful to go and find them all if they have the same thing. A note about where it says locations. Locations aren't school sites. It doesn't mean Grand Terrace Elementary and Terrace Hills Middle School. It means locations at your site. And some sites have them set up, some don't, some kind of have them set up. Like these 2, they're set up incorrectly anyway, so it wouldn't be helpful to know. So I just leave it at all. A location at your site might be the textbook storage room. At Bloomington High School, they have a separate classroom where they store items. It might be that room number. It might be the multi-purpose room, that type of thing. As you move forward, if you want to set that up and keep track of all that stuff on your site, that would be great. It's good to know where you have those things. Grand Terrace High School's got sort of 2 different storage rooms. Maybe they would list the textbook storage room and the novel storage room or something like that. But just leave it at all locations. And you want to slide down to include everything. Copies with barcodes, copies without barcodes, and consumables, because you don't know how they might be cataloged. And one of the most important things that we're going to be counting are the consumables. The next section, handling checked out copies. So that means if you scan a book, you scan a textbook, and it's checked out to someone, what do you want to happen? You want it to be checked in. And you're going to find a lot of these. It might be checked out to a teacher. It might be checked out to a student. And if it was checked out to a student and the student incurred a fine, it's going to clear the fine and put a refund on there. And copies and barcodes that have been seen on or after, you can pick the date that you start, and that date can be today. They don't need to be scanned. Destiny keeps track of all of these, so you can continue circulating just the way that you have been, and Destiny knows where they are. If you scan a book this afternoon, it's going to already be accounted for. What's accounted for are books that checked out and books that are already marked lost. Destiny assumes it knows where those are. What's going to not be accounted for are the ones that are currently marked available. Verify copy location. That means if you said you were in the textbook room and you scanned a copy and it said it was in room 249, it would alert you and ask you what you want to do. For most of you, it's probably do nothing. You could select prompt for change just to see what it's saying. But like I said, there's hardly anyone that has locations set up and is using them with any kind of fidelity. So I recommend do nothing or prompt for change. If you prompt for change, you're going to just keep getting those little things saying it thinks it's somewhere else.
Kelly,
And
it's
then I'm
Kate.
not going to tap on OK for Bernie. Kate?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Go.
If we leave the copies with barcodes that have been seen or after with today's date, what happens to those ones that are currently checked out?
Destiny just knows they're checked out. Nothing happens to them. And if it gets checked in the next couple of days, Destiny will know that too, and you won't have to rescan it. So when you tap OK, and I said I'm not going to do it because that was Bernie's. When you check OK, you're going to get a note asking, are you sure you want to start this inventory? And then you tap on yes. Once you do that, you're ready to start scanning and counting, and you can come back to it at any time. And anyone that has access to your library, not anyone, let me see how to say this. So those of you that work at secondary, and there's 2 people that work in there, either one of you goes to admin inventory, it's just sitting there waiting for you. If I went in on some of the sites that I can get into and I went to admin inventory, I could just start scanning. So if you do end up want to start working in teams or whatever, you just let me know and I'll make sure that all of the right people have access so that they can come in and start scanning too. Now, copies without barcodes. On that page, we were seeing the part that says account for each barcode right there on the left. On the right, it says count copies without barcodes. And here is where you're going to come across the consumable section. These are anything that is listed in Destiny and there's a count for it, but it's not a barcoded count. You'll see all of the titles and you can pop over to this section at any time. You just put the new count in and click save. And you can keep on coming back to this. You'll be able to review your progress as you're going along. Up at the top, there's going to be little blue writing, the cookie crumbs, and you can tap on in progress inventories and get to a screen that looks like this. The accounted for, those are the ones that are checked out or marked lost. You're looking for these unaccounted for. So if I popped into this one right now, I would know I still need to find 259 items. Okay. You could tap on see details and it would tell you what is it you're still looking for. So as you think you're getting towards the end, you can come in here and see what is it that I still need to look for. I see that on my copies without barcodes, there's 45 titles that I'm looking for, and I haven't counted any of them yet. Again, go to admin, inventory, and it's going to be ready just to start scanning. Just scan into this box. You're going to come across items that don't scan. So you type it in and you tap on account for. You're going to come across items that the book doesn't match the title. It says it's not in the system. It says it's lost. You're going to come up with a lot of different things. Sometimes you'll be able to just fix it right then. Sometimes you'll want to put them in a pile and come back to those at the end of the day or a different time. I highly recommend that you use 2 devices. I found that very helpful. So I'll grab 2 devices and put them on the cart. One's got my scanner on it, 2 scanners if you have them. And scanning, doing the inventory, flipping things other directions as you go so you know you've done it. Take Post-it notes with you so you can slap them on. I've inventoried this area. But if you come up with something and you don't want to keep going in and out of your inventory screen, you could be in Destiny on the other device and checking on and fixing any other things that come up. April asked a really, really good question. Technically, yes, you should be going into every classroom. Okay, so we're going to pretend right now that we're not in a pandemic, that we go to schools and that everything isn't a mess. If that was the case, then yes, you would, number one, you would have already been with your teachers and you would have had them at the end of the school year tell you that they have all of the things that you think they have or they don't, and you would have either renewed them, marked them lost, or they returned them. So your records would be accurate. When that doesn't happen, you can go into every classroom and check if it's in that room, it gets checked out to the teacher, right? And then that would clear it. If you did that right now, you would find out that most of them are marked lost and you'd have to sit there on each one and marking them lost or marking them checked out. There'd be a lot of clicking. So right now, we are going to have to assume that if it's on a teacher record, that it does exist. You're not likely to have time, and especially on a high school campus, to get into all of those rooms. If you can, great. But with all of the issues of cleaning going on, staffing, timing, all of those things, it's going to make it really difficult. So just everyone do what you can. There's no teacher in there to say, yes, I have those, or no, I don't have those. Okay, when you get to the end and you've reviewed everything, when you get to the end, what you're saying is, I've looked as hard as I can. I can't find anything else. This is all I think I have. And what you're going to do is you tap on finalize. You're going to get this pop-up message, and you're going to want to select mark lost or adjust the consumable count. And what that's going to do is what they thought was available, you've gone and you've looked for all of it. Hopefully you found all of it. Maybe there's a couple you didn't find. It's going to mark those lost because right now they are lost. They're missing. We don't know where they are. If they should turn up, which is likely to happen at the end of the school year when kids start bringing things back, we're probably going to find out that a lot of books went home that did not get checked out properly. Lots of reasons that happens, but that's likely when you're going to be scanning them in from the kids and it's going to say this was marked lost, and then you'll move on. But you're saying it's all I can find. Yeah.
Quick question. When I find, say, consumables in another classroom that was never used, especially since, they went home, I guess last year, do you want those counted if they haven't been used? Like,
Yeah,
say,
because
consumable.
they're usable, right?
Right. Okay.
And I would suggest that as you're doing inventory, you're keeping in mind, you're going to be distributing these soon, right? August is going to hit us before we know it. So if you've got things scattered all over the place and that's not the best for distributing, then I would get them to the place that makes the most sense. A couple tips: run that title report. Keep your consumables in boxes whenever possible. Some of those labels are really hard to use. Getting a marker and writing on them can be helpful, like the number that's in the box and what it is. If your consumables are out, it's really helpful to stack them in piles of 10. So if they're stacked up, if you stack them in a pile of 10 and then turn the direction each time, flip them over, it's easy for you to go and count that stack again later. And if they're on the shelf, if you put them up, then put 10 down, up, down, up, down, it can really help you as you move forward. As you're getting ready to do this, check with your administrator to make sure that you're going to have access to all the spaces that you need. Maybe you only have a key to the restroom and your library, but all of the books are somewhere else. Make sure that you're going to have access to those spaces. When we return from spring break, all sites will be open 8 to 3. So you could be doing inventory during that time period. If it's outside your contract time, then speak with your principal about that so that they can make sure that you're going to have adequate time. Working in a team is super helpful. One person can be checking on all of the stuff that's not scanning right while another person's scanning. You could both be scanning, but it's really helpful to work in teams, and it's very easy to stay distanced while working in teams. So if that's a possibility and something you're interested in, let's try and make that happen. If time permits, look for everything on the list. All of the novels, all of those things that are in there, try and find them. If time isn't permitting, then we're going to have to just take what we can get. Did someone start to say something? As you're going through, think about, how can I make this collection, this cataloging better? And we're going to start to think about our Return Your Books campaign. Any questions so far?
Oh, you can read Caitlin's question. Then.
That's a great question. And like this year, I think moving forward, we're going to be in a lot of we don't have the answers. And then when we think we have the answers, we might have a different answer. I don't know. And I don't know if Patty or Dr. Mooney or Hyder are in here, but I don't know that they're is or can be a decision about what elementary school will look like yet. I would say assume that you're going to be checking out a copy to each student, because that's the harder thing to do. And then if we find out you just have to check them out to that teacher's classroom, then that would be fantastic. That's an easier pivot to make than it is to think you're going to just put them in each classroom and then have to pull them back out. Patty, did you want to add anything to that?
Kelly, I'm even writing this question down separately because I don't have the answer to that. All of us hope that we get to return to school just like the old days, right on the 1st of August. That's what I want, or whatever the return date is. But anyway, I'm writing this down, and we will try to get that answer as quickly as possible. And it's another reason for having an important meeting like this to talk about not only the inventory, which we're hoping is easier to do right now than it would be if we waited for everything to come back, but also so that we can anticipate the questions that are coming our way. So thank you, Caitlin. And thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, that's a good point. I neglected to mention that the reason you do inventory now is because you want to do inventory when everything's checked out, much less to count. You don't want to do inventory at a high school after everything's turned in and you have about 56 titles and 500 to 800 copies of each one, right? You want to let Destiny do that work. And moving forward, textbook inventory should be done during the second or third quarter, and library inventory should be done during the first or the fourth quarter. So if you're sort of thinking about how a year might go, and of course, resource inventory would go right along with textbook inventory because they have the same reasoning. You want to do it while everything's out. And you want to have those numbers in the springtime so that decisions can be made about what's needed and what's not needed. Of course, those things will change. Course enrollments will change. Where students actually end up attending school will change. But if you get a good head start and then you're following those numbers, you can make August go as smooth as possible. Textbook and Chromebook distribution is never going to be without changes or without issues. The job is just to do the best you can to be prepared for those and then to handle them. The highest priority items as you're going and doing those counts as the consumables, because those are the things that need to be ordered to be replaced. So if you're looking for a place to start, I recommend that you start with the consumables and get those counts in there right away. Also, don't forget to look at teachers' editions. It's very important that we know our teachers' editions as well. If you're going to be talking to the teachers about anything, find out, do you really have that teacher's edition? Get some messaging out to your teachers. If you are not teaching that grade or that subject, whatever it might be, next year, to please do your best to get that back to us. We need to know that it's available because we need to make sure there are enough teachers' editions as well, and then student editions. Not that they're less important, but if you could do it in that order, you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. And I'm just taking a look at the agenda here to make sure I have everything.
And it looks like April has a question.
Okay. Oh, yes. What is the situation, Dr. Mooney, since you're here and I'm getting different messages about people from people regarding this, is regarding the math. Because right now, Denise Chishita, there was a really big push, you know, to get illustrative math. That illustrative math is the math book that's being used. So most of the teachers are using that. However, for Williams, we're still required to have the Go Holt math because that's considered the standard textbook. That's considered the official textbook. So do we need to inventory illustrative math and the Go Math? Are we going to be using both of those next year, or will Go Math be eliminated for illustrative math? Because if you're going to spend, you know, 20, 30, $50,000 on Go Math books and none of the math teachers are using it because illustrative is what's being emphasized, I just wanted to get some input about Go Math and illustrative math. And this is a secondary question.
Yes, we'll inventory both and we'll need to distribute both.
Just more Go Math books, even though none of the math teachers are using them.
Yes, we'll still, if the teachers, we still have to have them available for our students. They are still our primary textbooks. So we will need to be prepared to do distribution. And even if the students are not using it, they'll still have to be able to have access to it.
Thank you. Yeah, April, that's just the way that it works, especially in times where we're coming up on maybe a change in the course outline or something. For Williams, it's whatever is on that course outline is what the students have to get. So I'm going back to take a look at our Jamboard and see, we have some people that have been really on top of this. Sherry at Grand Terrace, Victoria at McKinley. They've been doing their inventory. They may be people to reach out to because they are super nice and knowledgeable and might be able to help you out if you have any questions. Bloomington High, Lincoln, same thing. I'm going to come back and look at these where you've asked for some help. Those of you that have never done it before will definitely reach out to you and help you out and see if we can match you up with someone who might want to work with you. If you can go and help someone out for a day or so, then go and do yours. That might help, and maybe they can reciprocate. It is pretty similar to library inventory. Unfortunately, though, we can't pick what we want to inventory the way we can in library. In library, you can say, I only want to do fiction, or I only want to do this call number. In textbook, we can't get it as granular as that. And that's why it's really kind of an overwhelming beast, especially with all of those novels in there. So does anybody have any other tips they want to share? Any solutions? If you're thinking about issues that might arise, share those issues or how you might address them. One thing I want to say to you is have your sound on so that you can hear it and be listening for those sounds, because you can get in the zone and be scanning and think all's good. And if you didn't hear the sounds, you might, like 20 ago, it just stopped because it's waiting for you to answer a question. And that's super frustrating. So put those sounds on and listen for that. Victoria, it hasn't been settled yet about what that will look like when items are returned. The best advice I can give you is the way that we would do it if we didn't have to worry about driving up and distancing and all that stuff. So I'll tell you the best way to do it, and then we can adapt that to whatever distancing situations there might be. But it's always best to have the students do most of the lifting of the textbooks for you. So you always want to scan the book when it's returned from the student. Don't let them put them down and go scan them later, because you want to scan it and make sure that it matches the kid, that they didn't bring their brother's textbook, that they didn't bring a class set textbook. You want to make sure that their record is then cleared, or have a conversation with them about, do they know where the mistake was? Or if we know what it looked like last summer, there are going to be mistakes. And a lot of the time, probably most of the time, nearly all the time, we're going to have to take that student's word for how they came across the textbook that they have in their hand. And if they still have one checked out and they're like, this is the only one I ever got, I swear, you're going to have to check the other one in and mark it lost and hope that 10 kids later, it's going to show up. But there are going to be a lot of issues like that. So you scan the books while the kids are there. And then once you get a couple piled up where you want them, it's very easy to have the students walk over and neatly put the books where they belong. It's helpful to have volunteers, whether they're parents, older students, clubs from high schools and middle school can help make sure that those piles stay good. That's when people can come around each other and help each other out. What it might look like in another month or two when we have people coming on campus, I don't know, but check them all in with that student. And that's why it's so important to have library staff so familiar with all of the ins and outs doing this type of work, and let the kids stack them where you might be distributing them, so that when you come around in August, they're already stacked up. If you need to count them, you can turn around and count them. I recommend making piles of a certain height. Maybe it's 25, depending on the book. Maybe it's 50 if they're thin books. That way, when you look across, all you have to do is some calculations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 25. I know how many are there. Does that help out a little bit, Victoria?
Well, I was kind of hoping we had a more specific plan in mind, but yeah, that helps.
We don't know yet what the dates are going to look like, and elementary school, that's going to be a little bit more thinking. So I would say probably a month or two as we get towards the end of the year when we'll know.
Okay. I do have a quick question. At what point after we do the textbook returns are we gonna be submitting, the final numbers for this is what we have and didn't get back? Because I know we're gonna get some back in August when kids are coming for their new stuff too.
We're going to let Destiny take care of that. So we're going to finalize this inventory, right? And then when the kids bring those books back, because we're super careful at checking them in, Destiny's going to then put it in the available column. If it was still checked out to a student and they're standing in front of you and they're like, I don't have it, you're going to go ahead and mark it lost then, so that Destiny knows, I can't count on that one. By the end of distribution, we'll be able to go back and look at those numbers, and those should be pretty good numbers. That's what's available. And then people in ESD and in purchasing can then determine what transfers need to be made. Of the incoming books that we've ordered, where do they need to go? Are we going to make sure we have enough for 5th grade at McKinley? Their numbers dropped, so we need to move some over there and vice versa. So it's going to be like that. But once we do this and you're maintaining the records, Destiny should be able to do a lot of the work. You may occasionally get a call, can you confirm this number or something like that.
Okay.
Lincoln, Grand Terrace, McKinley, Bloomington High, any of the that are said that you've been doing it pretty regularly. Did you have any other tips to share with everyone? Kathleen Hunt, can you share a little bit more about that question? I'm not sure I understand. Are you able to unmute?
I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I completed the inventory, but for each title, it has available and then checked out and lost. So I don't know if I should just leave it lost or if I should delete them because I'm pretty sure they might show up.
You just want to leave them lost. Lost just means that we don't know where they are at the moment, or they were checked out to a student and not returned, or checked out to a teacher and not returned, and therefore it's gone to lost and fine. So it gets to lost either by someone tells us it's lost and we mark it lost. Inventory marks it lost because it can't be found, or it goes to lost because it's overdue and not returned. So you want to leave those there.
Okay.
Kelly, I'm sorry. Can I just kind of go back to one of Kathleen's questions? It's Katie from.
Please.
Kathleen had said that she ran the inventory but only clicked copies with barcodes. I did the same thing when I didn't do the inventory the way you just showed us to. So if I basically go back and do it the way you told me to do, but change the date, adjust it to Friday, which is when I started the inventory date, that'll be okay, correct?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
you can
And
backdate.
Okay, and then the way she did the consumables, she just went in and edited it, edited the
Mhm.
number in it. And that's how I've been doing it also. Is that okay, or do I still need to scan them the way?
If you have gone in and updated your consumable numbers, that should be enough, because then Destiny is accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Just make sure that you've gotten all of the titles. So you might want to use that report and just check off that you found and counted those books.
Okay, thank you.
Patty,
All
we have
right.
quite a few questions in the box about obsolete textbooks. And I thought we had a process and that they were usually sold. Am I wrong that we still would need a count of obsolete textbooks? Or not? See, I think it's from Catherine Appleby.
Yeah, I think I was trying to answer that one, but first we want to make sure that we confirm that those books are and indeed obsolete.
Oh, okay.
Our process. And then Nancy should have a list of the secondary titles for the adoption so that you can cross-reference to make sure that we're not discarding anything that is still currently like in use. So like we have a unique situation with math that April brought up. Even though we're using IM, we still are required to have the HMH. So we don't want to discard it, even though teachers aren't using, maybe not using it, but we won't discard it. So we want to make sure we're confirming with my office. And yes, you will confirm that with Nancy Fierro. She should be able to give you a list of those titles.
Wouldn't the old science books, the old physics and chemistry be obsolete because they got new adoptions for that? And that would be the same with the US history, the POD and the econ, because those we got new adoptions that the old editions would be obsolete. Those be obsolete.
Yes, and just so that you know, I know that there are some teachers that were still holding on to the old ones. So we definitely want to pull those from the classrooms and go through that process of making them obsolete and then having our new editions available in the classroom. Well, available for students.
And April, those titles, those obsolete titles, especially those two recent adoptions of science and secondary history, those title records should not be in Destiny anymore. So when you start this inventory, you shouldn't be asked to look for them. If you come across them, then they need to be put aside for removal. But those titles should not be in.
Yeah, no, they're not in Destiny, but I still we have a bunch of physics books and we have a bunch of old chemistry books. So we wanted to get some clarity that someone's going to actually pick them up and either sell them or dump them or whatever with the old ones. That's more the question. They're not in the system. We have a lot hanging around.
If I would check with Amber on that, I can't see the whole screen, so I don't know if she is still here, but she can reach out to you or you can reach out to her personally to figure out how you're going to get those taken away. It's a matter of getting them on a pallet and getting them out of there. Items that we're going to take a look at. Yes, Victoria, I have that list right here on this screen, and we are getting it ready to send out to you all. Also, elementary school, I'm getting one ready for you too. This is what we're working on, and I'm pulling it out into a little bit less confusing, less information for you, just what you need to have.
Thank you. That will stop everyone asking Nancy individually. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Items that will need to be addressed soon. Looking at a district-wide campaign to get students to return their books and doing whatever we can to help them do so. Those reminders. If people bring books to your site that don't belong to your site, please take them. Don't send them somewhere else. Check them in, and then if you don't know where they go, ask us. We'll let you know. We'll get them transferred over. So it would be great if a family that has several kids at a couple different sites goes and takes them to all the sites. But if they can only get to one site, please just take anything they want to give you, even if it is from a long time ago. And we're going to get some more information and some more coordination on that for you. We're planning to have the library staff and the administrators schedule those distribution times so that there's less overlap, so that there's an opportunity for library staff to primarily be the people there that are actually working Destiny and the scanner. And staff accounts. In looking through Destiny, our staff accounts really need to be looked at, an audit of all of the people at your site. And unfortunately, because of this year being what it was, a lot of teachers' items have gone to lost. So it looks like our teachers don't have anything checked out and that they have thousands of dollars worth of fines. There is not a great, easy process in order to fix that. It is a going in, looking at it, and rechecking those items out to them. And that going forward, we're looking at the end of the year and having those teachers check their accounts and letting us know, yes, I have those. No, I don't have those, so that you can either renew them or mark them lost, or that they can return any items to you that they don't need. And that's really a big deal in secondary, less so in elementary, because you can go to the classroom. They should have only had that one set. But secondary have a lot of stuff. And that is all that I have for you today. Again, this is all on this page here on our library staff intranet. A copy of the email that was sent out, today's meeting agenda, and I'll go back through the chat and I'll add some notes to the agenda. The slide deck that has all of the instructions in it is here. If you prefer, there's a PDF copy here as well. And of course, I'm always here to answer your questions. And I know you can help each other out. We have our WebEx team. If you haven't been participating in that because you're not sure how to use it, if you let us know, we can help you out with that. But that's going to be a great place to have these conversations, because you can throw a question in there and someone likely out of the 35-ish people can get to you. I'm going to check the chat one more time.
This is Mrs. Perez at Grant. So when it comes to the students who have consumables on their account, how will that be wiped clear for the next year?
That should be taken care of at the district level, and those should all be removed.
Okay.
Some of them would have been set up so that they will fall off automatically, and some might have to be removed. But if a student comes up to you and they return all of their items, except for their consumables, you don't want those back. If they give them back to you, you can have a dumpster ready for them. But if the only thing they have left on their account is a consumable, then you consider them clear. Does that answer the question, Lisa?
Yes, it does. I guess my concern was talking with my site admin. I think we were going to offer an incentive for those students who clear out their accounts. But you know, there's a lot to like look through. So I just wanted to know if you guys have like an estimated time or date that you will do that.
I don't see why they couldn't come off now. We're done reporting for Williams. We've distributed everything. I don't see why they couldn't come off in sometime in April, by the end of April. I will put that on my notes to follow up. Would that timeline work for you?
Yeah, that would work. Thank you.
Kate, you'd prefer them to come off sometime in May? May would be better?
I would, because we still get new enrollees in April, and I'm sure I'm still going to have kids show up in April who have not gotten their textbooks all year, or who never picked up their second semester textbooks and now need it in April. And so if it gets removed in April, I'm not going to be able to look at their account unless I go back in the history and easily tell if that kid has already gotten that consumable or not. And I don't mind going back in the history. It's not going to be a huge amount of kids. So if this is what works better so other sites can do incentives, I am all for April. But
maybe May 15 or so, because then that's
We want to make
2-3 weeks
it
before.
We might want to make it a little earlier, like maybe early, because we do have to do a senior checkout. So it would be nice if all their springboards and all their consumable and their algebra 2 consumables are removed. So it would be nice, you know, we could do it maybe the first week of May, so it doesn't conflict with senior return.
You know, I think we're going to need to talk about this with Dr. Peterson and the ESD directors for textbook return dates and before we move forward, because the Williams law is the Williams law. Every student must have a textbook, and we don't want any of these kids to think school's over.
Oh, yeah, we're not talking about returning the books. We're talking about just accounting in Destiny. The ones that are checked out as consumables are checked out in a different way.
Oh,
and
yeah, okay.
They fall off and go away. So like no one but the people in this call would actually probably know that has happened. They want to be able to look at the kids' records and know for sure that if they have one thing checked out, that it's a barcoded item and not a consumable, so that their reporting is easier.
Got it. Okay, I'm sorry, I
So,
was confused on that.
It's okay. So I'll follow up with Patty and purchasing and Amber and everyone and see when they can get all those consumables off sometime, maybe at the start of May, so that your seniors are clear. Once you've started, that's around the time you'll probably start getting those books back, that when a student turns everything in they're supposed to turn in, that their account really does look clear, so that you can, you know, be like, I'm done with this student. If there's a little reward for turning in all your stuff, then you could do that. If you're sending home consumables after spring break, they will be checked out to students. Yes, they have to be, because that's how you're going to keep those numbers accurate, because as soon as you check it out, it comes off of your count. So you always want to be checking things out properly all the way through. All right, it's 3:02. So if there's nothing else, you all have a great day and let us know what we can do for you. And thank you for all you do every day.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
I'll hang out here for a few minutes if anyone has any questions, but I'm going to stop sharing the screen, maybe.
Kelly, if I can't get to my novels, by April 16th, but I think I can get to them after that date. Can I close out that inventory and start like a second spring 2021 novel only inventory?
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is, you can't do novel only in Destiny, but
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
Shit. Okay. I'll figure that
Okay,
out.
we can work together because I think maybe you can just not finalize yours.
Okay. It's just I put stuff in that room that's going to make it very difficult to get to scanning them, and I don't know if I'm going to have time to move it out in the midst of textbook inventory. So I just
Yeah.
got to figure out what my timing looks like. It wasn't that bad to move it in. I'm hoping it won't be that bad to
Yeah.
move it out, but
And,
yeah.
and maybe that's some type of summer project or those days we come back early, hopefully. I don't know when. But that's a project.
So if I don't get to it and we finalize my inventory, like
They're
our
going to be
novels-
marked lost.
Okay. Cool. That's fine. I can go in and physically count
Something's
them.
gonna look funky and be difficult. I guess
You
it's a matter of which things
So
are
on
we
the
gonna have look funky and difficult.
on the priority list, am I correct in assuming that that one's kind of low on the looking funky and difficult? Like it's not, it'll red flag
Yeah.
for people, but you're not going to panic.
Right, because
Okay.
it's not gonna affect any purchasing decisions. It's not gonna affect whether or not there's enough materials for students. It's gonna be a year of digging out of pandemic.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, Victoria. Sandra, Erica, Victoria, are you guys hanging out to ask me something? You're just hanging out to say hey.
I'm just still listening. Thank you all for all you do. Thank you very much, Kelly.
Thank you. I'm going to hang up in just a moment, Erica. I'm going to assume you probably just needed to step away.